Welcome, we are Kath, Sue and Fudge. After living for 2.5 years in our motorhome, and with the help from the BBC's Escape to the Country, we found our forever home in the Highlands of Scotland, where we enjoy all it has to offer, including hiking, swimming, cycling and running. So why not join us in our post-retirement adventures?
Well, good morning. So today I wanted to let you know that there's some woodworking coming up, just in case that's not your thing. But it did occur to me that we've never really talked about retirement, or at least our journey into retirement. And so there will be people who are watching this who are retired, and congratulations if that's you, because you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you're thinking about retirement, then there may be some things that will be of interest to you. So here goes.
Well, to start with, Sue and I had very, very busy jobs. Very demanding jobs, working in a fairly stressful environment. But we had an old motorhome before this one, and I used to call it our stress buster. We spent as many weekends away as we could, and most of our holidays, apart from an annual ski holiday, most of our holidays involved travelling or going away in the motorhome. So as I was edging towards retirement, because Sue retired a year before me, we talked about living in the motorhome or going travelling, at post-retirement, and that is exactly what we did.
Nothing ever felt as good or as easy as when we were young. Though I felt misunderstood, it was a pleasure running away with you.
Then one day, randomly, I decided to fill out a form for Escape to the Country. It was a programme that we watched quite a lot, and because we'd been travelling the UK for 2 years by then, we'd seen lots of places and had some idea of the places, the kind of place that we'd like to live, although not really specifically. But the one place that we both agreed on that we wanted to live was the Cairngorms. And so when it came to filling out the form, we just put down the Cairngorms. Well, it was at least 3 months before we heard any more from the team that do the filming. And approximately 6 to 7 months after first filling out that form, that we ended up filming up here in the Cairngorms with the Escape to the Country team, who ultimately helped us find that the house we're living in today. The team were great, and for those who are interested, Nikki Chapman was our presenter, and in person is exactly how she comes across on screen. She's a lovely lady. When we were going through the process with Escape to the Country, we had to set out the criteria of house that we were looking for and location. And we wanted something that was fairly rural with nice views, and we were less worried about the house. But one of the things that I wanted was a workshop. Now, I've never done any woodworking before we moved into the house here, but you can imagine my eyes lit up when they found this place, which did happen to be the mystery house, because here there is a workshop to die for. So that's one of the things that's really helped me in retirement. The other thing is, I'd never really been into gardening. Gardening was a chore, you'd work a very, very busy week, and then the weekend with dread, you'd think, oh, the lawn needs mowing, the hedges need cutting. But strangely, I've got really into it. Not that I want a, particularly manicured garden. I do quite like flowers, but I've really enjoyed growing my vegetables this year for the first time ever. And harvesting my potatoes and carrots has just been an absolute joy. And living in a setting where we've got gorgeous countryside all around us, and the mountains to die for has been superb, because both Sue and I have always enjoyed hiking. We used to do a lot of hiking in the Lake District, but here it's on our doorstep. And I think as a consequence of being busy all day around the house, either in the woodwork or in the garden, or going away hiking, we've done some wild camping as well. Actually, just living a generally more healthy lifestyle. one of the byproducts of that is I've lost an awful lot of weight. Now, maybe I'll talk about my, weight loss journey, because up to now I've lost about 2.5 stone just since we moved here, which is, makes me feel much better. So if that's something that you'd be interested in me talking about in the future, then obviously let me know and I'll maybe make a separate video on that. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about the preparation for retirement, because I think that's probably quite important. One of the things that I think helped us transition into retirement relatively easily was having a plan. And that travel in the motorhome was the thing that enabled me in particular to move from this high pressure job to transition into planning for something else. And in fact, Sue is the planner. I'm not the planner, but because I was looking forward to getting in the motorhome and going and having that freedom to travel wherever we wanted, I started to think, where do we want to be, and I just got into it, which then got my brain from pressurised job to, some would say pressurised planning. It wasn't. It was in our own time. And we got to travel the UK and visit some fabulous places. And if you haven't followed us for a while, you may wonder why we never went over to Europe. And whilst most of the time we were travelling, we had 2 dogs, and one was an elderly old black Labrador, an absolute darling of a boy. But sadly, he passed away about a year ago, and he was on lots of medication. So we just didn't really want to be in Europe needing to get his medication. It was difficult enough to get some of it even in the UK. But it did give us the opportunity to see lots of places in the UK, many, many beautiful places. And it moved us from work mode to retirement mode. And then, of course, when we found our place here, we absolutely fell in love with it. And then there was the stress of, will we get it? But we did, and we're here. And we have it's the whole, then, we didn't live in a house, we lived in a van, then moving into a house and feeling all that space again, and having, the beautiful surroundings and the ability to do things that we'd never done before. In my case in particular, getting the woodworking thing going. So let's move on to that piece of woodwork that I talked about. This is not a woodworking channel. I am not trying to teach anybody how to do it. I'm simply maybe showing you what is possible when you've got time on your hands and time to be patient and make mistakes, and it kind of doesn't really matter. And what you can achieve from that, because I've been so really proud of some of the things that I've made, and I've really enjoyed the process. So for those of you who are thinking about retirement, I would say the important things are: have a plan, find some things that you really want to do that maybe are completely new, and enjoy it. Okay, now to the woodwork. Good morning. Gosh, it's bright today, isn't it? I've opened the workshop door. It's always nice if you can work with a little bit of sunshine and natural light coming in. Oh my God, I don't half dribble on. Anyway, the short version, I'm going to make a small set of drawers for the workshop using a design that I found on the Proper DIY channel. Thank you for that. Oh, and I'm sporting my new birthday present, and I'm using this as practice before I start to make a camper van bed for a friend. Well, the first thing that I'm doing is I'm cutting 3 100mm strips off these, which will come in helpful later and also make the rest of the board a little bit easier to handle. I'm using my new track saw with the track, and these little things, which you can buy from, it's actually a YouTube channel called Straw Bite. It's probably something else as well, but they allow you to, normally this sits on the piece that you're keeping, but because I'm taking strips off the end, it's actually the piece that I'm keeping is the bit that's coming off. And these little act as 2 little spacers at the front and the end of the track, which account exactly for the curve of my blade, so I can be quite accurate. 100mm strips cut, ready for the next. Now, because this is the side that I'm keeping,
I can line my track on the line without using those extra spacers, and that'll be fine. It is amazing how the right tools and the right setup make such a difference. I've never cut, I don't know if you can see this. This is the side that I cut. Let's see. And it's really nice, and there's hardly any tear out at all. And just to shorten my, as usual, long explanation, I had a sacrificial board underneath, a good blade, and I cut with the inside of the board on the bottom.
I'm having lunch.
Oh, okay, I'll be with you in a sec. It sounds like lunch is ready, so I'll come back to this cutting later. Well, I'm back after lunch. That was lovely. I've walked the dog and now I'm back, and my cuts are going to be across the grain now, so that's where tear out might be a bit more of an issue. But hopefully the Makita guide rail, the splinter guard, and the fact that I've got it upside down and supported will make a difference. Again with glue and fixings. Okay, so now I've got the main drawer box assembled, and I now need to make the actual drawers themselves, but without the base, the drawer base. And the drawer base will run into these. So I'm going to make the boxes without the base, and then I'll add the base later. I now need to do some more cutting. But because I've now built it in this way around, which is a slightly different way around to Proper DIY did it, I can be really confident about the measurements because I've measured it from this. And I think there's probably one mistake on the cut list from Proper DIY. So if anyone, because he does a much better explanation of how to make it than I do. So if you are interested, look at him. And then if anybody wants to just check with me my measurements, maybe I'll put them on the screen anyway, just to be a bit helpful, just in case. Well, yesterday I had a little bit of a break after doing some more cutting. I've still got a little bit of cutting to do, but I'm going to start to assemble the drawer boxes. I used spacers each side to get the overhang even, and then brad nails for an initial fixing, followed by screwing, with of course a pilot hole first. Now I've made the 4 drawers, this is going to be alright to hold it, I want to see if they fit, and I want to do that before I put the back on, and I'll show you why. Anyway, let me go and get them. Now I'm not going to put the other 2 drawers in yet, and that's because
I want to make a way of getting these out, and I think I'm just going to cut a shape here. That's what Proper DIY did. He did suggest you can just put a hole in so you can get your finger in, but I think it would look nicer like that. And I haven't put the back on because it means I can push them out, but I do need to put the back onto the box as well. At first try, the back didn't fit, so I shaved 1 millimetre off 2 sides, which seemed to do the trick. So I glued and screwed the back into place, and I really wish I hadn't. I wish I'd left this to the very last thing. Well, for my drawer cutouts, I made a little template on some cardboard. I transferred it onto the front of the drawer. I haven't done a very good job because the first time I made it I didn't like that one, but the bigger one is what I'm going for. And then I'm just going to get the jigsaw out and cut that bit out and hopefully it'll be alright. Well, that's it. All finished. Let's put the drawers in and see what the final thing looks like. Oh dear, all except the bottom one are fine. I'll have to have a look in there and see what's going on. Well, here it is, finished. Great little workshop cabinet. Just don't make the mistake I've just done, because I can't actually shift the drawer. I shoved it in and now I can't get it out. So I think it's probably wasn't quite square, and it's tight at the back, and so if I'm going to put anything in the bottom drawer, I need to get that one out first, but the rest are fine. So yeah, it's maybe a little bit disappointing after a whole weekend's of work, but I'm sure I'll be able to sort it out. But in the meantime, I can have a proper tidy up in the workshop.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Now, you'll notice when I talked about retirement, I haven't covered finance at all, because that is a very individual thing and everybody's position will be different. And we certainly feel incredibly privileged to have been able to retire when we have done. But if you're one of those people that's thinking about retirement, but you're not quite sure that whether, not the financial thing, but you know, that whole kind of psychological shift into being very busy to having lots of time on your hands to do what you want, then I hope this has given you some idea that it is possible to transition very happily into retirement and live every day. I was going to say as if it's your last, but just, you know, try to get the most out of every day.